Hey there, Cryptid family. If you enjoy the chills, don't forget to like this video, subscribe if you're new, and hit that notification bell if you're not afraid of the whispers. Winter has always meant death on the road. Snow buries the highways. Ice turns asphalt into glass. The silence stretches so deep it feels like the world has ended. I've spent over 20 years driving through it, rolling my rig across frozen landscapes, knowing that once the temperatures drop, it wakes up. No matter where I am, how many miles I put between myself and the last sighting, when winter returns, so does the Wendigo. The first time I saw it, I thought it was exhaustion, a trick of headlights refracting off the snowdrifts. I had just crossed the Montana border on a dead stretch of US 2, hours into a long haul, when something stepped onto the road. It wasn't a deer, not an elk. Too tall, too thin. My brights caught the shape of something raw-boned and wrong. Antlers stretching skyward like a crown, a skeletal frame wrapped in something that wasn't quite skin. Then it was gone, swallowed by the night. I didn't stop. I didn't speak about it. I pushed forward, forced the rational part of my brain to take over. But I should have paid attention, should have turned back. By the time I hit the next truck stop, I felt it watching. The air inside my cab had dropped 10 degrees. My radio, normally crackling with CB chatter, whispered something I couldn't understand. When I stepped out to fuel up, the other truckers gave me a look. Noticed something clinging to me, even if I couldn't see it yet. "You feel it?" an old-timer asked, his voice barely audible over the howl of the wind. "Once it finds you, it don't let go." I laughed it off, took my coffee to go. But that night, parked in a snow-covered lot off the I-90, I heard something walking outside my cab, the crunch of ice beneath clawed feet. A breath that didn't belong to me fogging up the corner of my windshield. I gripped the wheel until my knuckles turned white, but I didn't move, didn't look. By morning, the prints in the snow led nowhere. That was over 15 winters ago. The sightings don't happen all at once. They build. A shadow in the rearview mirror, a face in the fogged glass of a rest stop bathroom, the air growing so cold inside the cab that my breath turns visible, even with the heat blasting. It's winter again now. The cold has settled in, and the highways are thinning out. Most drivers know better than to keep moving after dark, but I don't have a choice. My rig hums beneath me, steady as always, but the gauges flicker like they did back then. The Wendigo's out there. I can feel it. And it knows I'm still running. I know the exact moment winter turns against me. It's not the first snowfall or the way the road salt stains the asphalt like old bones. It's in the silence. Trucking is loud, engine noise, wind rattling against the cab, the constant hum of rubber on pavement. But tonight it's different. The sound doesn't carry. The world is muffled, the air too thick. It's as if something is pressing against reality, warping it just enough to let something else in. I grip the wheel tighter, eyes locked on the empty stretch of highway ahead. The digital clock on the dash blinks 2:47 a.m. I haven't seen another set of headlights in hours. My fuel gauge is steady, my route planned, but there's a tightening in my chest that I can't shake. The Wendigo is awake. I can't prove it. I never can. But I feel it. The way my fingers ache despite the heat, blasting through the vents. The way the headlights stretch shadows too long across the snowbanks, bending them into shapes that shouldn't exist. A green exit sign looms in the distance, half buried in frost. Mile marker 237. I was here before. Last year. The year before that. The first time I saw it, maybe. I don't mark them down, but my gut does. It remembers. There's a truck stop just beyond the exit, a relic from the 70s that never got the memo it was supposed to die along with the rest of this frozen wasteland. It's the kind of place where the coffee burns your tongue, but never keeps you awake. Where the gas pumps are older than I am, and the only people inside are too tired or too haunted to leave. I pull in anyway. The overhead lights flicker as I kill the engine. The cold settles in immediately, thick and suffocating. Outside, the wind howls, rattling the loose metal on the awning. I don't see another truck, just my rig, towering and alone in the lot. Inside, the diner is dimly lit, the neon open sign struggling to stay alive. A woman stands behind the counter, eyes glazed, flipping through an old newspaper. A single old-timer sits in a booth, staring into his coffee like it might start whispering secrets. No one looks at me. That's the first sign something's wrong. Truck stops aren't friendly, but they're not cold. Someone always gives a nod, a grunt, some acknowledgement that we're all out here doing the same damn thing, running from something, chasing something, or just trying to make a buck before the road swallows us whole. But tonight, they act like I'm not even here. I slide onto a stool at the counter. The waitress doesn't move, doesn't ask what I want, just keeps flipping through the paper, her fingers ghosting over the pages too slow, like she's not reading, just pretending to. A gust of wind howls against the window, and that's when I see it. The reflection in the glass isn't mine. My breath catches. My body stays still, but my eyes track the movement. There, just beyond the pumps, past the edge of the flickering lights, something stands at the tree line. The Wendigo. The reflection isn't clear, but I know what I'm looking at. A shape too thin to be human, antlers curling upward like they've grown too heavy for its skull. Hollow, burning eyes. A mouth that hangs open just a little too wide. It's far away, but the cold in my bones tells me distance doesn't matter. First turn. There's nothing outside. Just my truck, the empty lot. The stretch of road disappearing into the blizzard. I don't move. Don't breathe. Then, the waitress turns the page again. The sound makes my stomach twist. Not because it's loud, but because it isn't. It's slow, deliberate, and off. Like she's been turning that same page over and over. The old-timer stirs his coffee, says nothing. The air is wrong. The kind of wrong that makes animals bolt before an earthquake. The kind of wrong that keeps you from stepping onto a frozen lake because you just know it's not thick enough to hold you. I push away from the counter. I need to leave. The waitress finally looks up. Her eyes are wrong too. Too wide, too dull, like someone else is behind them, looking through her. Coffee? She asks. Her voice doesn't match her mouth. I step back. My foot slips. My boot lands in something wet. I don't want to look down. I do anyway. The floor under my stool is wet with melted snow, but I didn't track any in. The door never opened. I shove out of the diner, the bell above the entrance sounding warped, stretched. The second I step outside, the cold slams into me like a wall. It's different now. It's not just winter. It's him, the Wendigo. I don't have time to check the lot. I don't have time to see if it's closer now. I get in the truck. I lock the doors. The engine doesn't start on the first try. I stare ahead, breath fogging the windshield. The neon open sign in the diner window flickers. The waitress stands behind the glass, motionless, watching. The old man isn't in his booth anymore. The truck finally roars to life. I throw it into gear, foot slamming the accelerator. The tires scream as they grip the frozen pavement, and the last thing I see in the mirror before the diner disappears into the snow are the footprints leading from the trees to my truck. They weren't there when I parked. The highway is an abyss. My rig's headlights carve into the blizzard, twin beams swallowed by the void ahead. The digital clock on the dash reads 3:19, but time feels stretched, elastic. My hands grip the wheel too tight, stiff from tension. The heater is on full blast, but the cold isn't leaving. It's inside now, working its way beneath my skin. The silence isn't normal, not like before. It doesn't feel like the absence of sound. It feels like something is swallowing it. Like the world outside the cab isn't real anymore. Just a painted set waiting to be torn away. A green exit sign looms in the distance. Mile marker 237. I was here before, last year, the year before that. The first time, maybe. My gut remembers, even if I don't. There should have been an exit miles ago. There wasn't. The road just keeps stretching, repeating, like it's leading me somewhere I don't want to go. I check my mirrors, instinct, and then my stomach knots. The snow outside is moving wrong, dragging, like something heavy is being pulled just beyond the glow of my lights, a shape too slow, too deliberate. But when I look directly, it's gone. I focus ahead. I have to. The highway bends, and something steps into my headlights. A figure, thin, too thin, antlers rising like skeletal hands, limbs hanging at unnatural angles. Its face is a void, hollow and waiting. The air disappears from my lungs. It doesn't move, doesn't flinch, just watches. My foot hovers over the brake. I don't press it. The truck barrels forward. Impact, but there's no weight, nothing. The moment should feel like steel hitting flesh, but instead, it's an explosion of snow, an absence of resistance. The rig lurches, the trailer sways, the engine stutters, dashboard lights flickering. Then, thump, on the roof. My pulse slams against my ribs. Another. Thump, then scraping. Something is crawling over the cab. I floor it. The Wendigo isn't behind me anymore. The roof creaks. Metal groans under shifting weight. Clawed feet drag over the steel frame, slow, deliberate. Then, a deep, rattling breath. It's above me. The cab is filled with rot now, but it's not the same as before. It's warmer, wet, like the scent of old meat left to fester in the heat. It clings to my throat, sinks into my clothes, into my skin. Then, a claw pierces through the ceiling. The tip punches through the fabric, jagged, curling like bone stripped of flesh. Something black drips from the wound in the metal, sizzling where it touches the dashboard. I don't think. I react. I swerve hard, yanking the wheel left. The tires scream. The trailer whips. My shoulder slams into the door as the whole rig tilts. Too far. For a second, I feel it. The weight shift, the inevitable rollover. Then, the back end corrects, jerking me forward with violent force. The scraping stops. The thing is gone, or it's waiting. I don't slow down. I don't check the mirrors. I just drive. I don't stop until the sky starts to lighten. A town appears out of nowhere, a gas station, a motel, a diner. I know this place. I pull in, engine still humming with heat, my fingers locked around the wheel. My body refuses to move at first. The smell is still in my nose. The claw mark is still above me. I step out. The air doesn't feel real. The gas station is old, abandoned. The motel's neon sign buzzes, but the windows are dark. No movement inside. I walk toward the diner. The bell above the door doesn't ring. Inside, the booths are empty. The counter is covered in a thin layer of frost. The coffee machines sit unused, coated in dust. There's a newspaper on the counter, yellowed, edges curling. I pick it up. The date is from 20 years ago. The headline reads, "Local trucker disappears. Last seen mile marker 237. The photo is of me. I drop the paper. The door behind me creaks open. The cold rushes in, the smell of rot, and then something steps inside and whispers, "You've been here before." The moment I step outside, I know I made a mistake. The cold is different now. It moves. It presses in, not like wind, but like hands. I feel it in my ribs, in my throat, in the hollow space between my thoughts. The truck is right where I left it. But something's wrong. The footprints, they weren't there before. Leading from the trees, leading to my cab. My breath comes too fast, too sharp. I force myself forward. Every step feels heavier, like the pavement is sinking beneath me. I reach for the door handle and freeze. The engine is running. The cab lights are on. Someone is already inside. A figure sits in the driver's seat. Not a reflection, not a shadow, a person, or at least something trying to be. The shape of it is wrong. Its shoulders too broad, its spine too straight, like it hasn't figured out how to sit properly. The longer I stare, the more my mind tries to reject what I'm seeing. Then it turns its head. Not smoothly, not like a human. A sudden, jerking motion, like something snapping into place. And I see my own face staring back at me. Not quite right. The eyes are too hollow, too black, too knowing. The mouth doesn't move right, but it's me, or what's left of me. It smiles. A whisper slides through the frozen air. Get in. My hands are shaking. My body isn't listening. I could run. I could turn back, but my legs don't move. Like they remember something I don't. The cab door creaks open, but not by my hand. The inside is dark, impossibly deep. The dashboard lights flicker, casting glimpses of a cabin that isn't mine. The smell of old blood, rusted metal, and something else, something starving. The thing in my seat tilts its head, like it's waiting, like it's done this before. And then I hear it, movement behind me. Slow, deliberate, steps crunching in the snow, too tall, too thin. The smell of rot slides over my shoulders, too close. My pulse hammers in my ears. The thing in my seat laughs, low, quiet, like it already knows how this ends. And in that moment, I finally understand. This isn't a road I keep returning to. This is a road I never left. And no matter which direction I run, I'm already in the cab, already driving, already part of the cycle, because I always am. The Wendigo doesn't need to take me. It already has.